All right, everyone, welcome back to the Elias Macco Show. Now, yesterday, things were looking bleak for the Acceuil Bonneau, the soup kitchen that's been in operation for about 150 years. They said they wouldn't be able to go on serving meals without sizable donations. The organization gives hot meals to roughly 400 people each month in Old Montreal. But in the final hour, things seem to have changed. They've secured some emergency funding from the province. Let's find out more. Fiona Crossling joins us, General Director of Acceuil Bonneau. Fiona, welcome to the show.
Hello. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you. So first, let's talk about how you ended up in the situation you were in, where you were worried about just running operations and giving meals. How do we end up in that spot?
That's correct. So for the last 3 years, Acceuil Bonneau has had financial deficits, and we've been trying to work with the government to find a solution to this problem. So costs have risen, obviously, and the major problem at Acceuil Bonneau is that we're not in the same category of funding as most organizations who work in the homeless sector, and so we receive very little money towards our mission, towards the cost of our programs. Acceuil Bonneau, yes, has a large meal program. It's 400 people every day who come. We also have a large transition and permanent housing program. So we're helping people to get off the streets and into long-term housing, which is really what the solution is to homelessness. Unfortunately, because we're in a different category of services, that meant that we received very little funding from the government, and it got to the stage where we just said, we can't continue anymore unless you change our category and improve our funding.
And to that end, what was the news that you got yesterday?
So yesterday we had a very positive meeting with the minister, and we're grateful that he has remained open throughout this time to meeting with us and to discussing solutions. The short-term solution will be emergency funding that the government has announced that will be available to Acceuil Bonneau and other organizations who are in a similar situation. Longer term, we're going to be looking at how we can change that category. What the minister has asked is that Acceuil Bonneau be willing to offer 24/7 services, and we are looking at how we can do that in such a way that benefits the people we serve and that fits with our mission.
What's happening with demand? What kind of burdens are you seeing when it comes to the number of people that are reaching out to Acceuil Bonneau for help?
So the latest homeless count showed that the level of homelessness across the province has increased dramatically. In Montreal, it's up by almost 50%, but we know that it's actually more than that. That count is from October 22. What we're seeing is more and more people who are losing their homes because either they're being evicted because the apartments are being renovated and upgraded and the rents are being increased, or they're just unable to make ends meet, and so they're losing their homes. So we're seeing a growing number of people in that situation. That is why Acceuil Bonneau really focuses on housing. We opened a new building last month that has 114 units for 120 people, and so we're working hard to help people get into that permanent housing. And so what we will provide in the future is really a continuum of services, from more short-term transitional housing to longer-term housing, depending on people's needs. And that is true for the whole homeless sector. Everybody is focused on how do we increase housing, how do we support people and give them what they need to rebuild their lives.
We're with Fiona Crossling, General Director of Acceuil Bonneau. Fiona, I'd like to take a moment here to just talk about all the services that Acceuil Bonneau provides. Because I know this week, and I saw the Canadian press writing about your soup kitchen offerings, right? But that's just one facet of what you do, the soup kitchen, the meals. And you mentioned the housing initiatives as well. So when you have to describe Acceuil Bonneau to someone, what are all of the things that you're mentioning?
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because soup kitchen is a really kind of old-fashioned term, and it's not one, really represents. We give a full hot meal every morning to 400 people, and half of those people are literally living on the street or in shelters. The other half are in precarious housing situations, so they might be in a rooming house, but finding it hard to pay both their rent and food. We have a large day center where we provide services where people can update or get new ID cards. They can deal with their debts. We have what we call a fiducie or a trust, and so we help people manage their money so that once we get them into housing, we ensure that their rent is paid every month and they learn how to manage their money so that they don't lose their apartments again. We also have a health center, dental services, podiatry, nursing. We have legal services and psychosocial support so that people can be supported in their journey from homelessness to living again in their own place.
And I'm happy we're talking about that because I think it was, I'm trying to figure out what happened because that Canadian press story went everywhere and it said Acceuil Bonneau soup kitchen. And I said to myself, it's not the 1930s anymore,
Exactly.
Right? So I wonder, and I think it was partially bad translation. Maybe it was done in French first and then translated, and then it went as a wire story everywhere. So I'm happy we're talking about all of the services that you offer.
I'm really grateful that you said that because I had the same reaction. Having said that, however, our soup is delicious. But
Yeah.
it is also a full meal that people get each day,
Yeah.
and we want that to continue. Unfortunately, the decision to come up with emergency funding was made too late for us to change things for this weekend.
Uh-huh.
So this weekend we will be closed, but we'll be providing bagged meals for people on Friday so that they will have something for the weekend. And we expect to be able to reestablish our services as soon as possible for the following week.
How far does this emergency funding take you? So next week, okay, we have a solution. How many more weeks beyond next week?
So I haven't got the amounts yet. We'll be discussing that tomorrow. But what the commitment is till the end of March. And the government's financial year starts April 1st. And so my expectation is that as of April 1st, we will be in a new funding model where our full requirements are provided for. And so I really want to reiterate that the large majority of our funding comes from private donors, from individuals, from organizations, foundations who contribute to our mission. But we are looking for base funding to be guaranteed as of April 1st.
So, Fiona, what needs to happen? And maybe, you've got insight from your experience, I would imagine, on getting people out of homelessness, on breaking the cycle. What do we need to be better at so that, there are less people to feed, not more?
That is such a big and important question. I think coordination in the sector is critical. And so there are many organizations working with many different types of people across the city, but we're not connected. That means that if somebody comes to our organization who would be better served elsewhere, there's a lot of manual work that needs to be done to see if other places are able to take that person. What we will be working on with our partner organizations in the new year is a coordinated access system, which will allow organizations to more easily say, I have an individual who has these needs. Do you have space? And we'll be able to more quickly serve that person. The other thing that coordinated access avoids is that a person has to retell their story of trauma again and again at each organization where they go and try and get help. So that's an important thing, coordinating access amongst people in the sector. The other critical element is housing. And so in the past, we've been satisfied as a society to put people who are unhoused in emergency shelters. And that is not a place where people can rebuild their lives. It's often a place where trauma continues, and not because services are not excellent. It's because you're living with a lot of people who are in a very difficult situation. And so we want to get people into housing more quickly, providing psychosocial support to them, and also giving them the choice in where they want to live and how they want to live. So not putting all men in one building, for example, but really helping people to live in a normal setting like the rest of society. And so those are the two elements that I think will really help Montreal to attack the whole homeless issue by working more coordinatedly between the organizations with the different levels of government and the health services, and as well ensuring that we get people into housing first.
Fiona, we have to leave it there. I want to thank you for coming on and giving us the update.
Thank you so much, Elias. Have a good day.
That's you too. That's Fiona Crossling, General Director of Acceuil Bonneau.